Okay, I'm delighted to be joined here by Paul Fennessy of the 42.ie, and we're going to have a little preview chat on Ireland ahead of Euro 2016, which starts tonight. So, Paul, what is the fucking crack? How are you?
Not too bad. How are you, Paul?
I'm good,
Great
man.
name,
Cheers,
by the way.
cheers. Namesake. Yeah, I don't know about you, but I always feel a bit weird at first speaking with a fellow Paul. Just feels like I'm speaking to myself, but I'll get over it.
Well, most people actually call me, well, in my job anyway, and then most of my friends call me Fenno, so
Yeah, I was
I kind
Morrow
of look
growing
around a bit
up.
when people say the word Paul, and I forget for a second.
You serious? You fellow even professionally, yeah?
Yeah, well, the lads in the office anyway, like I'm not sure if Martin O'Neill mightn't be calling me that now, but most of the lads in the office have gotten used to it because we've got a good few Pauls there as well.
Cool, cool. All right, well, Paul, cheers. Thanks so much for joining me here for this little video cast, webcast we're going to do on Ireland. So, right, so Ireland, we've got Sweden, Italy, and Belgium in our group. So, how do you see things? I mean, just your general thoughts on going into this group and our squad and things like that. Are you optimistic?
Sort of, yeah. I think we ended the qualification really well. Like, beat two very good teams in Germany, obviously the world champions, and Bosnia. It is a difficult group, I think. Like, it's sort of. I, I think we'd be doing very well to get out of the group. I think a third place finish could be our best bet. Like I was speaking to
It's the four best third places that go through, right?
That's right, yeah. So I think a lot depends on the first game. We need to. I think Sweden are probably the weakest team in the group aside from us. So if we can beat them and get off to a good start, I'd really fancy our chances of getting through. But if we lose that or even a draw, it might be really tricky because Italy and Belgium are two of the favourites for the competition. So,
Yeah.
and certainly player for player, they'd be stronger than us. But
Like
I suppose you
Belgium,
could say the same thing about Germany, and we managed to beat them.
yeah, like Belgium have been looking shit hot in their friendlies as well. I've caught a couple of their highlights and things. Like Hazard, who has not actually really exploded yet with Belgium as he did as he has with Chelsea. And he hasn't yet translated that form, but he's been pretty impressive in these friendly games. Lukaku, Kevin De Bruyne, really in great form as well. Actually, I don't know if you saw, but Wilmots actually tried him out in like defensive midfield in the Finland game.
Really?
Yeah, not actually defensive midfield. What they call, I don't know if football hipster here, but like a deep line playmaker, sort of like
Yeah.
more like Modric or Pirlo, like 10 yards back, kind of receiving the ball from the defence and trying to build possession from deeper. So it'll be interesting to see if they actually go with that against us. But
Yeah. It
what,
could be kind of makeshift as well because they've got a lot of defenders injured. I think they've got 3 or 4 defenders injured, including Vincent Company, who's kind of their captain and talisman. So, but in saying that, like they've got obviously Alderweireld and Vertonghen fit. Usually they play them at fullback.
great pronunciation, by the way.
Thank you.
Alderweireld.
Yeah,
Very good player. Very
tough
good
one.
player.
It's always difficult to spell as well. Like there's
Yeah,
a few eyes in there that you
a
wouldn't
copy and
expect.
paste player, isn't he? Whenever you're writing them,
Big time, yeah.
him and Wojciech Chesney
Yeah.
has him on a sticky key.
Yeah, but
like, what are your general thoughts on the squad? Did you have any bugbears or any disagreements with the squad?
I suppose one kind of that a lot of people were sort of whispering about was Damien Delaney. Like he kind of, I think it was about a year ago, he sent out this kind of cryptic Instagram which suggested he may have retired from international football and certainly emphasised that he had a few disagreements with Martin O'Neill. If you look at form in the Premier League, he's been probably our best centre back for the past 2 seasons. But he just doesn't seem to get on with O'Neill, and he's been left out of the squad, and it's no surprise really because he hasn't been picked in the squad for well over a year at this stage. So,
Hmm.
and I suppose you could look at it in the sense that O'Neill's kind of built a really good spirit in the team, and he might want to unsettle that by bringing in a potentially kind of problematic
Yeah.
character at the expense of one of the long-serving players who's been there. But a lot of people would take the other view and say he's been our best defender in the Premier League for the past 2 seasons. He should go, but it's not going to happen, unfortunately.
Another contentious one seemed to be, from what I was reading, Aidan McGeady. But regardless of how patchy his form can be, and to use journalistic parlance, mercurial, he's a classic
Yeah.
mercurial winger. I just think he had to go. I mean, he had the best standout individual moment of the whole campaign. Those 2 goals, especially the second one in Georgia. Like he's the one player who can, on his day, produce an X factor, a bit of unexpected magic. Jeff Hendricks did something in the home Georgia game that I really would never expect of him. That little trick on the side on the wing when he created that
turn.
goal. Yeah, the Cruyff turn. But I mean, that was a bit out of character. And just looking at the midfield, like there's very little flair if you take out Aidan McGeady. Obviously, Wes is quite a flair player, but I think he'd be a great option to have from the bench. I don't see him starting. What do you make of McGeady yourself?
Yeah, I think you're right in that it was the correct decision to take him, although I know a lot of people would probably disagree with me. As you mentioned there, he's unlikely to start, but I just think if Ireland find themselves 1 or 2-0 down in the game with maybe 20 minutes or 15 minutes to go, like there aren't really many players that you could look at on the bench who you could bring on and would be capable of a moment that might change the game. And McGeady is one of those players. Like,
Big time, yeah.
he could also have a complete shocker and not be first
Just
man
fail,
with about 10 crosses.
fail to get across into the box. It'll either go short or too far. His crossing is abysmal.
Yeah, and he obviously got hammered by Roy Keane for his performance against Belarus, and Keane kind of suggested he was nowhere near the first 11, and his career has been a complete disappointment. But like, if you watch that Belarus game closely, okay, he had a poor enough game, but he also created 2 of Ireland's best chances aside from the goal. Like he put in a cross for Daryl Murphy that Daryl Murphy should have scored from, and he played a true ball to Stephen Ward that put Stephen Ward through, and he was ruled out for offside. But
Wingers,
very
by their
bad.
very nature and by their position on the pitch, they get unfairly treated. I think if you look at players like Quaresma, Nani, you're receiving the ball out wide basically on the touchline. There's so little space to work around, and it's always going to be a hit or miss role. Damien Duff was actually quite similar. He was, he was a lot more consistent than McGeady, but they do lose possession, and they do, because they have to try things out there on the wing. It's not like look at James McCarthy, playing 5-yard passes back and forth. It's a lot higher risk job being a winger like that. So I think he gets a bit harshly treated sometimes, McGeady.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think it's the same with creative players in general. Like if they're not producing, usually they'll get taken off after 60 minutes, or fans will you'll start hearing the groans around the stadium, which is pretty common with McGeady. I suppose the worry with him is that he seems to be even more inconsistent than usual, in that he was basically ostracized from the Everton team. Like, I think he played 1 FA Cup game this year, but that was about it. And then he went on loan to Sheffield Wednesday, where he did a little bit better. Like, I think he made 13 appearances in total.
But didn't he? Wasn't he left out of the promotion squad?
Yeah, that's the thing. Towards the end of the season, he became surplus to requirements essentially, and wasn't picked for the promotion games, and it was kind of embarrassing. Like, he was there in Ireland training while Sheffield Wednesday were competing to try and get into the Premier League. So it was a bit awkward in that sense. But hopefully, like, Martin O'Neill is one of those players one of those managers that really seems to be able to get the best out of him a lot of time, as we saw in Georgia, and like he gave him his debut as an 18-year-old at Celtic.
Yeah.
So he seems to O'Neill seems to be one of the few figures in football that he has a really good relationship with. So fingers crossed it can benefit Ireland.
Speaking of O'Neill, what did you make of his comments down in Cork? Offhand comments about him and Keane not being queers. It wasn't the worst thing, it's better not to make a mountain of a molehill, but then his apology, I hate those half-assed apologies where, if anyone's offended by that, it's like passing the buck.
Yeah,
if anyone's offended by that, then I would apologise. I kind of had to chuckle when I saw that being reported as a real, genuine apology. And, coming on the back of the really cringy, when I saw that comment about the wags, I actually was like looking through my fingers, like, I started to really cringe when he ever opens his mouth now. And then he also had the thing about Dunphy, that was just ridiculous. It was so spiteful and mean-spirited. It just, there's no logic to that argument, that you have to have been a top, Ballon d'Or nominee to have an opinion on football. If you look at the players in his squad, by the same logic, most of them aren't even at the level Eamon Dunphy was. Dunphy in his time had 30 Irish caps in an era when caps were harder to come by. He played for Manchester United. He was a very good player, he got the best out of his career. So I thought that was really mean-spirited by O'Neill to hammer him. He should have just turned the other cheek. If he was being criticised by Dunphy.
That's the thing, yeah. And like he also, I suppose, as he kind of alluded to there, unwittingly slagged off his squad. Like he had some line about how to be a top player you have to play in the top leagues, and Dunphy never really played in the top leagues. But like, if you look at a good portion of the Ireland squad, the likes of Richard Keogh and Jeff Hendrick playing the Championship, they've never played in the top leagues either.
Yeah.
So
I mean, just generally, I think those comments, those kind of dinosaur-like comments are kind of reflected in some ways. I think of it's just, I feel in some ways a bit, it's a bit outdated in today's management. There's the stories also of how limited his tactical nous is, and things like there was a story about Aidan McGeady not knowing where he was going to play against Germany. Was that the game?
What happens basically with him is that he names the team very close to kickoff, so like none of the players even know if they're going to be playing, and if so, where they're going to be playing. And usually it's pretty straightforward. Like Seamus Coleman would know that he'll more than likely be playing right back, but with that game in particular, he just decided that he wanted McGeady to play in a sort of a number 10 role. And McGeady kind of alluded afterwards to a reporter that he was a bit kind of taken aback by this, because obviously it's not a completely natural role for him, and he just wasn't expecting it at all, and perhaps unsurprisingly didn't have a particularly good game. So
what's the story? Has O'Neill been renewed for the next campaign?
Yeah, well,
he
hasn't officially, but he says he has a verbal agreement with John Delaney, so it looks like it's going to happen.
Yeah. I mean, speaking personally, I'm kind of nonplussed by him. I think he kind of lucked out. The Germany game was a bit of an aberration. Like, Germany just had totally taken the foot off the gas. They knew they were qualified. They had about 10 really good chances to kill that game off, and as it kind of happened with them throughout the campaign, they're sort of the world champion, lacking in hunger, and they were there for the taking on the night. But I think the Scotland games were a real true reflection of where we are. Scotland threw the thing away. I know I'm going back in time a bit here, but generally I'm just saying I'm not keen to throw him or to give him too much credit for qualifying us.
Yeah.
That's what I'll take.
I suppose I'd probably be a bit more optimistic than you. I'm kind of like willing to see how he does, at least in the Euros here, and I think it probably is fair enough that he got a new contract, or that he's on the verge of getting a new contract, because the basically the requirement of the job initially would have been qualifies for the Euros,
and he did it,
and he's succeeded in doing that. but you're right in pointing out that Germany probably weren't at their most motivated. Like
Yeah,
it's I suppose it's one of the problematic things about the new format of 24 teams being included in that the big teams kind of know they can
yeah.
afford to lose two or three games and still qualify relatively easily. So there tends to be probably more shock results in qualifying as a result of that.
Yeah. Cool. Just like kind of to move on and kind of finish up then on just the general like mood and feel. Like how is it back in Ireland? Is it good good buzz about the place? Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I think there is an optimism about the team more so than 2012 when we played that kind of dour style of football, that Catenaccio, I hope I pronounced that right,
Yeah.
inspired
I
by Trapattoni, who had a very kind of boring way of playing. Like with O'Neill, it's maybe a
the
bit
players are
more.
freer. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
It
it's a
hasn't
bit more.
evolved. It hasn't evolved too much, I wouldn't say, but there's definitely
Yeah.
a greater feel of freedom for the players. I don't think
like,
McGeady would have scored that goal under trap again like he did against Georgia.
Yeah, there's definitely a greater sense of freedom, as you say, and just more kind of energy and more instances of fullbacks being in the opposition half and things like that. But as you say, it's not a complete revolution. We can still look very kind of limited on the ball and things like that, which I suppose is always going to happen to a degree with Ireland. But he's definitely kind of made a step up, and I think people do view the national team now in a more positive light. Particularly that victory over Germany,
Yeah.
in particular, was a game changer, as was the Bosnia one, because before that I think we hadn't really beaten anyone ranked above us.
We just kept
I think
drawing.
there was-
Drawing.
Yeah, I think there was like two
We love
teams.
the
One of
draw.
them was Holland in 2001, and one was, I think, either Slovakia or Slovenia under Steve Staunton. So it was very rare that we'd ever beat a team ranked above us, and
Yeah.
O'Neill finally managed to do that.
So you're going over, yeah? Looking forward to it? You're going over to France next week?
Yeah, yeah.
You
I'm
got,
heading
you
over.
got your inflatable hammer and six pack of bombers.
Not yet, but I'm working on it. I've still got plenty of time before I head over. I'm heading over for the Belgium and Italy games. I'll be covering the Sweden game from over here in Ireland, but yeah, I'll be heading over and
like
really looking forward to
Going
it.
to the games, yeah?
Yeah, I'll be covering the games from the stadiums.
And you're gonna kind of have you colleagues and mates over there that you'll be able to mix in with and just have a bit of crack after work and stuff.
Yeah. I'm staying in an apartment with my colleague from the 42.e, Ben Blake and Stephen Doyle, who's with 98 FM. So sure, we'll have
Shenanigans.
a bit of fun. All work and no play makes Jack a dull boy and whatnot.
Big I mean,
yeah.
just about the fans though. Like, have you seen some of the flags going around? And there's like a few Facebook groups making fun of them and stuff. What do you think of that?
Yeah.
Like,
There's been some.
Some of the I was listening to Balls.e's podcast last night, and like there is kind of an element of there's a bit too much easy going on now, in my opinion. Just like the stuff about Jack Grealish, for example. Like he just won the Toulon tournament. And there's someone's done a flag of Home Alone. Like he's actually won the Toulon tournament. He's going to have a more successful tournament than Ireland, in all probability. So I think that kind of stuff is just a bit cringy to me, and there's a kind of insistence now of like the self-fulfilling prophecy of being the best fans in the world and constantly having to live up and go constantly more with one-upmanship and insisting on crack and banter, can get a bit cringy.
I agree. It is a bit cringy, and they are. You're right to say. I think Ireland fans they were always going to react badly to Jack Grealish, but I'd certainly have sympathy with him as well. Like I think he's a young lad. He's still. I think is he 20 now? So like it was a very kind of difficult position that he was put in, and like he was born in England, so you can see why he wants to play with them.
Have you heard him speak?
I haven't. No, does he have a very? I don't think so. No.
Mate, he's got the most Brummie accent you've ever heard. Like, he's like,
Yeah.
he's just so brummy, it's unbelievable, you know. And yeah, he represented Ireland underage, but look, he probably felt more English. And I'd say all the best to him.
I,
You
I
know.
did laugh when I saw that Home Alone flag though. What it was, I think it was something like O'Neill and Hodgson just in the background with kind of perplexed looks on their faces. It was kind of funny, but
Yeah, no,
yeah, no,
it would have been funny had he not won the Toulon tournament. You know,
yeah,
you know what the tournament I'm referring to. Yeah.
yeah, the underage one.
Yeah, that's pretty prestigious. England hadn't won that in like 20 years, so it's pretty good one for him to win. So like, just get your general predictions. I'm not really one on actually predicting games or anything, but just for the crack. Let's say, for example, we beat Sweden 1-0. Like, how would you see us against Italy and Belgium then?
If we beat Sweden and get a bit of momentum, I think both Belgium and Italy, I'd fancy us to at least get a point off of them.
I can't see us against Belgium personally. I think I can't see us getting anything.
I'd agree that it wouldn't be in our favour, but like if you look at the Wales game against Belgium, like kind of those sort of freak results can happen, and
Yeah, of course, anything.
if everything goes our way and if we stick 10 men behind the ball and Shane Long gets a goal on the break, I could see us doing something, particularly with Belgium being unsettled by all those injury problems in defence and things like that. So I wouldn't be.
Yeah, Italy are a strange one. Like they're always an enigma when they come into these tournaments. When they're most written off is when they're at their most dangerous. Like 2006 on the back of the Calciopoli, they win the thing, and then 2012 there was another scandal. They get to the Euro 2012 final. They're just they've got that tournament pedigree. But this time, you know, if you look at the names, like there's so few household names. It's just such a mediocre looking team on paper.
I'd agree. Yeah, like if you look at, like I was looking at their strikers, and I think Graziano Pella is like certainly in qualification played a good few games and was looking like their main man, and like he hasn't had the best of years at Southampton. Like he was kept out of the team by Shane Long.
Yeah.
So if that's the best they got, it doesn't reflect particularly well. Like
Yeah,
so
I mean, still
think they've
Buffon
got
in goal, like in Bonucci and Chiellini in defence. You know,
Yeah.
it's that backbone that's been, you know, that's been there for 10 years now. Yeah, up front, like just looking at El Shaarawy, Immobile, Insigne is very good. Zaza is nothing special. I don't think they'll pose too much problems in attacking sense. It's us breaking them down. Could be a bit of a war of attrition, a bit of a both sides just sitting back and trying to get balls over the top.
I think back to the last World Cup when everyone they were in that group with Costa Rica and England and Uruguay, and everyone kind of thought, oh, England, Italy are dead on to qualify from this group, and the exact opposite happened. So as you alluded that they're very kind of hard to predict. Like they had
Pirlo. Pirlo was absolutely sensational at that World Cup. He was still at his absolute peak in 2014. Yeah. Remember his performance against England? It's just incredible. So without him now, they kind of have to deal with the post-Pirlo era, and you know, they haven't got a real ball manager. I'm just looking at the midfield. You know, Motta, De Rossi are more kind of destroying midfielders.
I think Verratti.
Verratti, of course, but he's not there
as well. Yeah, that was a big loss for them.
Yeah, he's brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, no, I'll definitely miss Pirlo and his Panenka penalties, and just beautiful player to watch. Like,
beautiful man.
Yeah, in every sense, beautiful.
All right, Paul. I think we can wrap it up there. You know, just don't keep it too long. I know you've got your work to crack on with and your preparation for getting over to France next week. So, thanks so much for joining me here for this Skype chat to preview the boys in green. And hopefully we'll be in touch. You know, again during the tournament at some stage if you've got any free time to give us touch base with you after the group stage or anything like that. You know.
Definitely, yeah. Thanks very much for having me, and
No,
hopefully
no,
we'll chat again soon.
my pleasure. My absolute pleasure. I'm just gonna end the recording.